It has been a long time, yes, 15 years.
Right.
Very happy to see you.
Right. So you are an MBA graduate in 2011.
Right. I was in CEIBS from 2009 to 2011. It was great having you in classroom. Still bring a lot of fond memories.
Yes. You give me a very strong impression. You came from India, study in China, and then you stay in China and work in different companies, and ultimately you join this company. It's a Chinese company, and then you go global. So your experience, your career path is very interesting. Can you say a little bit about the job that you're doing, your career development in that company?
So somewhere along my early days of MBA, I was looking at news and this renewable energy industry was just starting. And there was the writing on the wall that it is going to become very big and one of the mainstay industries given the climate change that was happening. And coincidentally, one of my essays for MBA was how climate change is going to come. So with that, I got interested, and there was a club in the school called Energy and Environment Club. So I became the president of that, and through that, we took up many pro bono consulting assignments with quite a few companies like Siemens, Bosch. That ended up to an ISP with GE Energy, and actually we got a lot of recognition both from school and from company for that project. And that project eventually became 600 million plus in partnership between GE Energy and AB InBev. So it was a moment of pride. That gave me an opening into the renewable energy. And immediately after MBA, I joined this industry with one of the earliest dedicated solar fund called Global Solar Fund, which was invested by that time the biggest Chinese as well as global solar module manufacturing company called Suntech.
Your current company, it's Jinko Power Technology Limited, and maybe you can share with us what's your main role, what's your responsibility. You seem to be traveling a lot as a global manager.
Yes, so Jinko Power is into renewable energy development. So what that means that we develop solar and wind projects. Now storage, like big scale grid level storage, is becoming common. So from being a pure solar player, now we have transitioned ourselves to be full-fledged energy transition player. And within that role, I manage about 11 countries spread across Latin America, Europe, and Asia Pacific. And that takes a lot of travel. What we basically do is we develop these energy transition projects, and our end product is like selling electricity to the utilities and the grid company. So in last 2.5 years, I think we have actually grown from 3 countries to now 15 countries, and we have increased our total, the development pipeline as we call it, by close to 50 times, 50, which is a great matter of pride for us. And from in terms of our profit wise, we are increasing to 30 times in 4 years. That is 30 times. So with this, there's an enormous amount of energy commitment from the entire team spread across the world, because everyone wants to be a part of a winning team.
And the current company, Jinko Power, is also very interesting that it grows so fast. Chinese company going global, has been a hot topic and has faced a lot of challenges. But Jinko is doing so well. And could you share with us what are some of the key success factors that Jinko is doing so well in the global market?
Yeah. So I think our international business has been there for 2015. And it was doing quite well, I would say, but it was focused in a few countries. And then with the COVID, which was a major disruptor for everyone, things significantly slowed down. So when we had to pick it up from there, I would not say it was absolute zero, but it was at a kind of a low point, like most of the industry. And when we had to come out, like strong and with a clear focus. So when we started this, from these 3 countries to 15 countries, what was needed was the right balance between HQ and the region, which means, and very difficult to get done in Chinese company, which we managed to do, is letting go of control and empowering the regional. Most of the time, why this control is so important is because of the trust. When you don't have enough trust, then you want to have control, believing that you are on top of things. That's the mindset. But what about if you can come to a right balance point, that you have a system which lets you empower the team. At the same time, you are overall able to manage the risk factors. And this which we could do well, because most of the senior management in the team, they have been very international, very global, and very long in the industry. So we know the local dynamics of all the countries that we have chosen. The country managers or the senior people in all the regions are part of the same ecosystem, having same common colleagues or friends over the last 10 years. So when we started, we did not have to build on that trust factor. The trust factor was already there. And by giving this empowerment and local decision making within the framework that has been set, we grew this fast. And this is what we believe we are going to continue, because it has given us the result. So when I came into this, that was one of the first things that we did, because as you see, my boss, they came from the industry when the industry was just starting. So that gave us the confidence and the trust for us to let go the control.
So it starts from the leader who is willing to let go and then empower you guys, and then you can do that because of the experience.
Yes, like it has to start from the top, because control is, or power is something at top. So how you manage it, giving control gives you that satisfaction that everything is under control. That thing, it's a kind of a written on the wall, you are not going to go far. And particularly like a business of ours is a kind of a development business which is very local. So many companies actually have tried by trying to hire in China and sending them overseas as a country manager, and all the mid to junior level people are the local people, and they say that we are globalized. But at top, somebody who is going into a new market, and ours is a kind of a semi-regulated industry which involves land, local government up to the level of the municipal government. So just learning that process and getting confident is going to take time, and that's why there hasn't been a lot of success. In our case, the entire team in every single region has been absolutely local, and we got that confidence because we are part of that same ecosystem. So there was no time required for that trust building, so hit the ground running.
Is there a risk that comes with that approach?
There comes a risk, and the risk is, we need to see how do we define risk and at what level of risk we are comfortable. So like they said, the only way to avoid risk is not doing anything. The Chinese word thanking. So how do you increase your risk aperture to a level which you can still accept, but the return is going to be more than compensated for accepting that? So in our line of business, most of the failure rates happens very early within the first year, when you would have spent maybe only 10 to 20% of the total budget. Just to give an example, let's say to develop a project which takes 3 years and it costs, let's say $100, whether the project is successful or failed will be known in the first year, by when you would have spent $10 to $20. With that level of risk, I think it is acceptable, because the returns are more than overcompensated. In a much bigger company and with a different mindset, before taking that first step, you envisage that your entire $100 is at risk, and as a process you don't take a decision. So this is where we study in MBA, but in real life when this gets going to get implemented, we are afraid to take decisions because maybe you are afraid of losing job. But if we really bring some of those learnings, like how do you define risk, how do you mitigate risk? So this is the project which will take 3 years. The first year, your capital at risk is, let's say, $20. What is the probability of that? And the second year, what is the probability and how much capital at risk? The capital at risk multiplied by probability, that's your true risk. And with that, am I willing to take that risk? And we brought in this approach. So whenever we go to an early stage project development, I tell me that give me the key milestone after which we'll know whether the project is a successful project or the project has to be abandoned. And at those critical junctures, what is my capital at risk, and based on your experience, what is the probability that this will happen?
Now, I'm hearing about a few important points. Number one, it's control, right? You have to let go of the control if you want to go global. So that control mindset is something that all companies have to overcome, if you want to go abroad. And how to build trust, that's also very important. And number three, how do you empower the local people to do things? And these are very important, and so calculated risk. You grow from like 3 countries and to 15 countries in a short period of time. There must be something in there. Is it because of the industries, or is it because you know how to select the right country with the right company or right location? What's something right that you think we can learn from you?
So I think first, the industry, this is the third time I'm coming back to the industry in 12 years.
Yeah.
And this time I see it's much more sustainable, much more accepted, and actually one of the few industries that you have a visibility for the next 30 years. Which other industry you can say that you know what is going to happen in 30 years? But with the carbon neutrality goal for 2050, you have that visibility. So that's why there's an opportunity any direction that you look at. Now, based on your company's strategy, your company's financial strength, etc., you have to choose which countries you want to go into. And for us, we are a private company and with not a huge balance sheet. So we have to be very selective in the countries that we go into, and we have very clear parameters. Like there has to be a geopolitical stability, the size of the economy and the growth of the economy, then the energy mix, and within that energy mix, the policies for the renewable energy, then the forex risk and capital control. Because being an international company, it's very important that you can put in capital and take out capital as per your convenience. And the last but not the least, that the projects that we are developing itself has a liquidity, like it can be bought and sold. What that means, that if the projects are being getting bought and sold, then international capital is moving. So the way I define to my team about our industry in one line, it's local development, global capital. So that means that the market is healthy. So now you touched about this control issue. I think many places, in many contexts, people get confused between control and management. In my personal opinion, and I'm not representing the company over here, that management is always required, control need not be, or it should not be. And we should not confuse ourselves by believing that we are managing when we are actually exercising control, because we are getting the very good and smart people across the world, and then we are trying to control them in a small box. It's a waste of their talent, and it's not good for the company. So in our case, because the industry is also evolving and changing very rapidly, we draw a box of what we cannot do because it is not coherent with the story and strategy. Besides this, you go out and figure. So in my management philosophy, I say it's the 3 things: why, what, and how. I spend a lot of time with my team telling why we are doing this, because only when the why is aligned, you truly get more than 100% from each of them. And then in the early days, or when we are starting a country, then we tell what. I try to completely avoid, unless someone directly asks me, of telling them how to do it. Because it's impossible for me or any other manager to say that he can tell how to do things in 15 different countries, which is actually local business. So maybe in my capacity, I would spend 60% or more time on telling why again and again. That's where the alignment comes from at the senior management. Then maybe 20-30% time to say what, only in the new jurisdictions. And when someone asks me how, I'll spend maybe 10% of the time to also tell them how to do it.
So communication is actually very, very important. What are the key traits or quality that you think a global manager or global leader should have?
I think this is a very interesting question, because just last week I was telling you one of my team member was completing their AMP and asked me kind of a similar interview about being leadership at core and effective leadership. So I said, you have to balance this. First, coming from an empathy of, I know what you are saying. I understand where you are coming from. So tell me all your thoughts, and you don't need to sugarcoat with me. Tell me your honest thoughts. For being honest, there's not going to be any repercussion. End of the day, I may still take a decision which may be different from you, but I can assure you that your suggestion has been treated with due importance. And I'll also tell you why I'm taking that decision. The other part of that is having their growth truly in your heart. each of your team members, are they growing professionally or not? If they are not going professionally, it's unlikely that they will be able to contribute meaningfully with the company. What that means is that if they come across some opportunities outside the company which may be better suited for their growth, you have to let them go in a very friendly way, and you create a culture where they feel comfortable that they come and ask your opinion of what is best for them. As we speak today, someone in my team today, we are having this discussion before leaving the company, was discussing that what should be the next career path. With this empathy and people care in mind, you also need to be effective. What by effective you mean that you'll never be able to satisfy the requirement of all the people at all the time. So here I have come up with the term borrowed from our middle school maths called the highest common factor. That can we meet midway of all different departments, everybody's requirement, that where more or less everyone is satisfied, maybe all of them are not super happy. They can live with it, but they're not going to be cheery about it. To get consistently in that highest common factor to get things done. And the other part is sometimes making tough decisions, because it's also easy that when you are always thinking of like empathy and this, you are letting fat build up in the system. So this is also the example that I take, that the best players sometimes are let go from a soccer club, not because they are good, not because they are not good, just because sometimes they are bringing an imbalance in the structure and they may be better in somewhere else. So we should be taking some tough decisions at the same time.
Very good. I enjoy talking with you. It's very philosophical and I learn a lot from the experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's always good to see you.
Yeah. Thank you.